Today is a day that I think the American people are going to start turning, whether they know it or not, whether this administration cares to admit it or not. Today is the day that is the beginning of the end for so much of this administration. Yesterday, we had Janet Napolitano tell us all kinds of things. We're going to get to that here in just a second. We have brand new information, but I've got to lay the groundwork on where we have been before we get to the new information at the top of the hour. If you have been following this information on the Saudi terror connection and the White House and their lies, we have some pretty significant pieces to add for you today that I think you need to be very well aware of. Here's the next shoe to drop from the Blaze. We'll give it to you at the top of next hour. You guys heard it when we arrived on the ground here in New York City. Or actually, Stu, you weren't in the car when I read it to Pat. Am I overstating to say this is much bigger than what we announced?
Yeah, it's pretty significant.
It is very, very significant, and it has to do, again, we told you at the beginning of this process that we have to lay out a case, and we have to take it piece by piece, and when they start to react, then we will take it to the next place. And they reacted yesterday with Secretary Janet Napolitano, who you will probably may spend some jail time for perjury. That's my guess. She should spend jail time for perjury, but I don't believe that she will be our Secretary of Homeland Security.
Wow, this is kind of a big statement here, no?
After this all plays out?
Well, what's interesting is would you say that she's reacting the way that our sources have predicted she would react?
Yes.
And that's not good for her in the end because she keeps walking herself into corners.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we know exactly how she's going to react. We know exactly how this administration is going to react. And I pray that they continue to react this way because they will eventually, I believe, they will undo absolutely everything that they think they have built. But they've built it on a house of cards. They have built it on a series of lies. Yeah. And it's all coming undone. And today is the day that you will see it's all beginning to come undone. I would also add that the media is going to come undone in this. You know, when I left Washington, D.C. after 8/28, this was a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. And I got on the train, and I had a meeting shortly before 8/28, and we didn't really say this out loud, but I said to my staff right after 8/28, the media is going to come undone. This is all going to come undone, and we can't be anywhere near it. We have to be outside of this system because it's going to come down, and it is coming down. I will tell you that we are working with some extraordinarily brave men and women in federal law enforcement community as well as the federal government that are risking not only their livelihoods, but at this point are risking their lives to bring the information to us. We are not the only agency or the only news outlet that these heroes have been in contact with, and yet this story is receiving almost no national media attention other than the Blaze. I just want to put the other national media sources out and let them know that the Blaze has been documenting who we speak to and who our sources have been speaking to, so we can document exactly who knew and when. We have been told by several of our sources that news reporters and writers from at least two, and this is disappointing, at least two major news organizations have actually been digging into the same information that we have provided, and they have filed stories for air only to have their respective managers kill the stories for no apparent reason. Trust me when I say the reporters that I'm talking about are no slouches. They are some of the most knowledgeable and respected journalists in mainstream media today, and it begs the question, as we get to the end of this story, it begs the question, when we release who knew, when, and what they did, and we'd have to ask, why was that spiked? Why did those media organizations decide to not run it? We are extraordinarily confident in the information that we are giving you, and not in an arrogant sort of way. We have shared a lot of this information with other media sources because we know. We would much rather have them do it because, believe me, we know how we're being pilloried. We know that Saul Alinsky loves to isolate, and that's exactly what's happened to the Blaze. We knew that going in. I'm totally fine being isolated. I believe this is the blue dress. In the end, this is what will put those guys out of business and put us into business. It is no different than what happened to Matt Drudge in the 1990s, and we know how that game finished. This one's not going to end the same way, because this one is about, today we will show you, it's about a cover-up, which that's kind of Nixon stuff. It's about a cover-up. It's not about sex. It's not about anybody's private life. What this is about is covering up the ties to terror in our own country. And Janet Napolitano is going to be the first to fall. If I was in a federal agency and I was investigating the Boston terror, I would make sure that you weren't being set up, because a drowning man will pull everyone under. You better make sure they're not grabbing for you. I would suggest that you contact the Blaze or any other media outlet. I don't know who else will report on it at this point. They all have too much to lose. They all are either cowards or they just trust the government. I've never seen anything like it before. Well, we have this information from the Blaze, but yes, we do. We called the Department of Homeland Security, and they told us that's not true. Oh, well, Woodward or Bernstein, which one is that? We heard there was a break-in, but we called the White House, and Nixon said no.
That's exactly what it's like.
It is what it's like.
If these guys were around for the Nixon Watergate scandal,
that's exactly what the tweet would say.
Richard Nixon would still be president today. He'd still be president.
Probably not
today, because he
constitutional limitation.
He wouldn't have been caught. He would not have been caught.
There's the
and
death
he would
thing.
have continued to be president.
The dead. He's dead.
He may not have died without the scandal.
Away.
I think it made him sicker than he.
Okay, all right, we get it. I think that the amazing thing is there are veteran journalists that have had their stories spiked. There have been stories that have been placed and then pulled for no apparent reason.
Some of these reporters are pissed, too.
Some of these reporters are extremely pissed. And may I just say, soon the Blaze will be hiring. Call me. We aren't in bed with the administration or anyone else that will tell you to shut up. If it's true, it's printed.